Good morning. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. I want to thank Kent for that very personal and kind introduction. I'm excited to be with you today in the mile-high city of Denver. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's an incredible view of the Rocky Mountains if you go out the doors here on this side of the building. It's amazing. And I'm very excited to be opening the forum that we have in the western region of the country. And today we're going to be focused on issues facing you as auditors of smaller businesses and auditors of broker-dealers. So you're going to hear presentations from some of our experts that we've brought here. Our staff from our Office of the Chief Auditor are going to be here to answer technical questions about the PCAOB's audit standards. Staff from our Division of Registration and Inspections are here to answer questions about registration, inspections, and remediation. And then staff from our Enforcement Division are here to talk about our enforcement program. I'm also proud that we're going to be hearing from staff from the United States Securities and Exchange Commission and the Financial Industry Regulatory Authority, FINRA. So I want to thank both of them for their participation. So I hope today is going to be a day of education and engagement, and that you can come to understand more deeply what the PCAOB, the SEC, and the FINRA do in your space. And we can expand our understanding of some of the challenges that you're facing in the trenches. I am going to do the disclaimer that you just heard, that the views I express today are my own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the PCAOB, my fellow board members, or the PCAOB staff. So the board is conducting a number of these forums, 5 to be exact, in select cities across the nation. Why? Well, we understand that our capital markets are diverse, and our forums are basically focused on hearing from you and getting views from outside, we say outside the Capital Beltway, which is the ring road, 495 that goes around Washington, D.C., about what the realities are of audit practice. I was looking at all of you who are participating, and a lot of you have come a bit of a distance, to come here today, so we appreciate that as well. The markets that you are in are places where investors and businesses can come together regardless of their size or their business model or their capital needs. Whatever the stage or the type of small business, it should be able to get the capital it needs to grow. And in a form, like I like to say, it's willing to live with. I think about venture capital, PE, whatever the form is, there's strings attached to all of those types of capital. But getting the capital it needs to grow. It can't obtain capital, though, without sound financial statements, particularly in the areas we're going to be talking about today, right? Public companies and broker-dealers. So this, of course, is where you come in. Your fundamental obligation to protect investors through the preparation of informative, accurate, and independent auditors' reports. In the words of the recently adopted and revised AS 1000 standard, it is, and we believe this, the linchpin of what the entire system rests upon. It is you who are auditing the financial statements of a young company based upon an entrepreneur's good idea. And it is you who are conducting audits or examinations of broker-dealers that are relied upon truly by the Securities and Exchange Commission in its oversight of the broker-dealer financial responsibility and customer protection requirements, including compliance with the net capital rule and required books, records, and report rules. I don't have the final head count, but there were about 23 smaller firms registered today. And I asked my staff to go look at how many issuers you audit and how many broker-dealers. And we got approximately 23 smaller firms. And you're auditing about 300 issuers and more than 250 broker-dealers. And then there are about 3 medium-sized firms here today, and you all had around 310 issuers between you. So simply put, and that's about 600 plus, right, issuers that are being audited by the folks in this room today. So simply put, your work is vital in ensuring that the U.S. capital markets remain the crown jewel of our financial system. And audit quality is key to maintaining credibility and confidence in those markets. Many of the board's latest rules and standards are tailored to the characteristics of particular audit firms. We're going to talk about that a little bit more today. For example, on Monday, the Securities and Exchange Commission approved an update to the standards that govern an audit firm's system of quality control. We call it QC 1000. In particular, audit firms that have registered with the PCAOB but do not yet audit issuers or broker-dealers are exempted from full compliance with the standard. Registered firms, so firms registered with the PCAOB, we call you registered firms, need only to design a system of quality control, and you're exempted from operating or monitoring its effectiveness unless and until you decide to take on the audit of an issuer or broker-dealer. And the firm, you, decide how to design the system to fit the size of your firm and the operations of your firm. The QC objectives, right, or principles are the same in all cases, but one size does not fit all in building a system to implement them. If you decide to accept an engagement involving an audit of an issuer or an audit or examination of a broker-dealer, the firm at that point becomes subject to the requirements to operate and monitor the QC system that you've designed. This means that the firm is set to meet its professional and investor protection objectives the moment it begins to perform an audit. We think that strikes the right balance in assessing the risk to investors and the cost of compliance. So we want to hear from you, not just today, but as you see issues or frictions that relate to new standards, for example, inspections, remediation. Oftentimes you see things before we do. You certainly sometimes feel them before we do. I hope that you'll reach out to us as part of a continuing conversation about audit quality. So I want to thank each of you for your participation today, in advance for your thoughts and insights that I hope you'll share with us. This is a dialogue. This is not us talking to you. We're really here to listen. I also want to thank our team from our PCAOB Office of Communications and Engagement that has worked to make this forum a reality, and in particular Brian Goodnow, who for all of his work in putting this event together. So without further ado, I will sit down with Kent and we can answer some questions.
Ah, the CPE codes. Very good. Hey, Brian, do you want to see, maybe we can move this down? Yeah, just so they can, don't want to block off the, we'll take it down the stairs. Oh, okay, we'll just, oops, hey, ew.
Back here?
Yeah, that's fine. Is that good? Better. Okay, so let's start with the first CPE code for y'all, and that is 975. 975. 975. So that's that. Well, Kara, thanks again for joining us. I will just get things going. I know that there are some general questions we always like to answer or to ask and have answered when we do these. And then folks, don't be shy to submit any questions you all might have online. So I'll just keep my eye out for that. But one of the things I talked about was your background, and not just as an SEC commissioner, but all the things you've done before you came to the board. So I just wondered, I think folks might be interested in hearing sort of what you bring to the board and what is it of your background that has been maybe particularly helpful or brings a unique perspective to this role as a board member overseeing registered auditing and accounting firms?
It's hard to answer questions about yourself. I think I have been able to, I think first and foremost, deep understanding of the capital markets and a commitment, like I said in my remarks, to making sure we have the best in the world and that capital continues to want to invest in our companies and in our markets preferentially. And I think undergirding that again, and I truly believe this, is that people believe they understand what the risks are. And that's because of the audit to financial statements is key, right, to investors understanding what's happening with a company. I also think it's been helpful to be part of a number of, I would say, semi or legislative bodies where you have to work towards consensus to move forward on something. So I think that's been helpful in my sort of background. I remember reading a book many years ago that some of you might have read called Getting to Yes, about negotiation, skills and sort of how do you help not let the perfect be the enemy of the good, right? And sort of move forward, whether that's legislation or a SEC rule or a PCOB standard. So I think that's something, as a lawyer, that I sort of bring to the table.
Yeah, no, it's great. I think, I've always been impressed having a background as an SEC commissioner overseeing the issuers, our jargon for a public company, gives you a great perspective, not just for the firms whom we regulate, but the pressures that their clients are under and the kind of the business environment that their clients are working in as well. So it brings a great, unique perspective to the board as well. And then consensus as well. I mean, we are both, board member Stein and I are creatures of the Senate, and it's a unique place, and it's very consensus driven. You can't just, it's not my way or the highway. You have to build that consensus as a body. And I think it's been really satisfying and great to see the current board, the 5 board members, operating through consensus. And it's not always going to be unanimous, but knowing that whatever the outcome you got in a real thoughtful, collaborative way, I think really serves both the firms who we regulate, but then the capital markets as well. That's not just one person's opinion driving things. It's really working with your fellow board members. It's been fun to watch from a staff perspective. One of the things when the new board came on, spent a lot of time at the forefront of that time together, coming up with a new strategic plan and a budget that flows from that, and having a very collaborative process for coming up with that strategic plan, getting comment from stakeholders, which again is our jargon for folks not just whom we regulate, the accounting firms, but others who have an interest in the space. So you think audit committees and investors, of course, who we ultimately serve, but then the preparer community as well. And it landed in a place where you identified 4 really key priorities over the next 5 years when you all are here that you want to focus on: strengthening our enforcement program, updating our standard set, our standards, many of which haven't been updated in 30 years since they were first adopted on an interim basis by the profession itself. Enhancing our inspections, which I think most folks think of when they think of the PCAB as our inspections role, going in and auditing the auditor, so to speak. And then the 4th one, improving the PCAB as a place to work. And I think it's been great as staff having you identify that, because, again, I don't think people care about how great Kent Bonham's life is working at the PCOB, but it's more of a function of showing that if you can make it a better place to work, then it allows for our professional staff to really focus on what we're all here for, and that is our job, our mission to protect investors. So it's been a great thing to see the board identify that. So I just wondered, of those 4 things and the time you've been here, if there's anything particular that sticks out of you as either accomplishments or highlights for you personally, or focuses of yours personally in sort of what the board as a whole has identified as our strategic plan objectives.
I mean, I think the board, when we first got to the PCOB, I'm I guess I'm really proud of the collaboration of the board and sort of working through a strategic plan that sort of helped us think about, every day why we're doing what we're doing and making decisions about what we want to accomplish basically in a 5-year period of time. That's basically what the strategic plan is. So I think I'm proud of the focus that gave us as a group as we work through that process and our collaboration on it. And I'm actually proud of the whole plan. I mean, it sounds simplistic, but I think it's helped us in particular focus. So one thing that sometimes I think about the PCOB, it's like a startup because it's about 21, 22 years old. So I feel like we have been able to help think through the PCOB's next 20 years and sort of how we get there. So as Kent was saying, we have focused on our employees, but some of that is making sure we have policies and procedures, ourselves, for our HR department or other places, sort of beginning to grow into, I guess I would say into our 20s, sort of have some of the infrastructure we need, going forward. So I also feel related to all of this is much like all of you, we were dealing with the pandemic. So I came in virtually as a new employee, and I had to try to meet as many people as I could. I did virtual lunches, like on Fridays to try to meet our 900, plus employees. But focusing, like many of you are, on what we learned from hybrid work, the strengths and weakness of that, and how do we move forward is also part of all of these things, that we're doing. So I think I'll be interested in hearing from some of you about your experiences in that regard. We've also been talking about it in terms of audits, right? I'm sure a fair number of you did virtual audits. And we've done virtual inspections, right? And so again, what the strengths and weaknesses are of those methods, it'll be interesting to hear from you today.
Okay. One thing I know that is, before we get going on that, second CPE code of this particular session is 125. 125. Uh, 125. Okay. Another question I thought we could just address at the outset, just because it always comes up, and if it doesn't come up, it's because people are too shy to ask, but they really want to know, and that is, obviously we're dealing here with a number of auditors of broker-dealers, and refresher for those of you here in the room is when the board, the PCOB was given, when its oversight was expanded by the Dodd-Frank Act, it expanded the board's jurisdiction over what was previously then just from the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, oversight over auditors of issuers, and Dodd-Frank expanded that authority to give the board oversight over the auditors of SEC-registered broker-dealers. Since that time, the PCOB has been operating under an interim inspection program of auditors of broker-dealers, so subject to the same type of inspections as auditors of issuers, but handled a little bit differently, although we, the inspections and enforcement have the authority to follow up with individual firms. The reporting that we do is done what we call 40/20T reports. So annually, no more than once annually, we'll generate a report on what we're observing as an industry as a whole in our inspections of broker-dealers. So I know that a lot of folks are interested in the question of what is the status of the interim inspection program? Does the board have any short-term, medium-term priority for trying to move to a permanent inspection program, if there would be any difference ultimately between those two, and just sort of if there's any update that you wanted to provide on that question, or sort of that's scope of that question about the interim inspection program.
Yeah,
for eligible
I mean,
dealers.
I think the board is very supportive of the program. I think I can speak for myself on that. I'm very supportive of the program. I think it's been invaluable, hopefully to you. I think it's been, helpful. So you guys have to remember it was created largely as a result of the Bernie Madoff scandal. And Congress decided to require, the PCOB to engage in looking at the auditors of people like the person who had audited Bernie Madoff's firm. So that was the end result of it. I think the SEC's been very supportive of it. We've been very supportive of it. I don't see there any plans to change it right now. So.
Good. Okay, let's go. The next CPE code for this session is 353. 353. And again, one last time, that is 353. Okay, we've got a couple questions coming in, so let me just take a look here. I think that one, we will follow up. The SEC won't be here in person, but there's a question about if the SEC is considering removing the small broker-dealer 30-day deadline change. So we will be sure to forward this on to the SEC staff to respond as appropriate on that. And then there are two which I will make sure that our professional staff look like. One relating to investment banking retainers and the obligations under revenue recognition. And then a second, I guess a third, but the other question, the non-SEC question is related to 12B1 fees, direct and determined from a mutual fund. So we will, unless one of our broker-dealer folks, we will table that for them. Maybe they can address that during their session later today. Okay, I see a nodding your head. So Mike, if we can refresh your memory on this during the broker-dealer session, so we'll address that then. And then as far as the investment banking retainers, we will just, I don't even know who we would ask that about that in our office, but I'm sorry? Okay, so we'll raise that for Mike and his team when during the broker-dealer session, and so we'll be sure to loop back to this, so thank you for the question. Are there any other that folks want to either submit here, or if you're having technical issues, should we just open it up? Yeah, let's bring it. Why not? We will just, if anyone has any questions and just want to do the old-fashioned way, that would be great as well. Going once?
Don't be shy.
Yeah, why not? We'll be around. I know Board Member Stein is going to be here for the balance of the afternoon, the day, and then we'll have to take off right before FINRA and SEC present. So you can find us here, and happy to connect with you during breaks as well. This isn't the last bite you get at us if you wanted to talk about anything that's on your mind. But I want to thank Kara for taking the time to come to Denver to do this. Hopefully it is a demonstration to all of you about how important these are to the board, to make sure that we're getting outside the beltway, as they say, to really understand the challenges that firms operating in a smaller company and broker-dealer space are going through, and hearing directly from us. So thanks for the time, and thank you all for your attention this session. The next group is, who's up next, Brian? All right. So our DRI, Division of Registration Inspections related to issuers, will be up next. So thanks a lot. Oh, last CPE. Thank you. 542. 542. 542. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.